It's interesting to talk about films and somebody who's not really a director or an actor, but a very important piece of filmmaking.
Yeah. It's funny when you actually look online, a lot of people are like, I didn't know Phil Tippett did this. I didn't know he worked on that too.
Right. Google that, right? Just, I didn't know Phil, right?
Yeah, and the opening of this film does a really good job of that, of just like, hey, look at all these things in the background as we're like pre-talking about it, and you'll see, oh, he made that.
Right, not only made it, but also kind of go a little further, the poignance of kind of making it be part of the story as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
All right, we're going to talk about Phil. I like this documentary. I think you can find it on Tubi.
Tubi, I think Plex has it. It's all over the place.
It's a couple years old, and I want to thank Tyler Prawl for selecting this. This is a Patreon selection film. If you're interested to pick movies for us to review, join our Patreon as well. Of course, Phil Tippett designed a lot of the monsters for Star Wars. I think it talks about how he got involved with it, but also the stop motion. He talks about his inspirations, but also he's very much knows not how to make monsters, but make them a point to be part of the movie. It's an interesting. You can make monsters, you can design them all you want, but understand those personalities get flushed out on the film as well.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that kind of revelation between making things for Star Wars, because he says at one point in the documentary that, like, just make something and George will find a spot to put it. You know,
right,
whereas like what would be tested later on is how do I make something that fits the film, and as you can see with different things, he had such an ambition. You know, when he was working on Dragon Slayer, which you can check out our episode.
Oh yeah, Dragon Slayer.
And he was making Vermithrax for George,
the dragon,
giant dragon, and this whole thing was I'm gonna make the coolest damn dragon I can. He kind of did.
Yeah, right. But also, what I'm trying to say is, like for RoboCop, the T1, you know, the
Ed 209.
Yeah, the 09. But the director asked, "You got to make something funny. We need something funny about it." So he understands. Well, this doesn't work on stairs, so let's put that in the movie.
Well, yeah. It's what's fascinating about those kinds of elements too is he's a very good. Not to say yes man, but he's very good at taking the assignment and making it work the best way possible. Because what's funny is right before that part, they were talking about how why does Ed 209 look so happy, and he realized like, well, you just flip this part upside down, and then he looks menacing on the job. And so then he turned something that would have been comedic into something serious, but then was able to find a way to make it comedic at the right time in the film. It's fascinating how much Phil Tippett is a filmmaker who just didn't direct a lot.
Yeah, he's the kind of the special effects director, and I do like it that his wife kind of the counterbalance. I mean, she's very artistic herself, but I don't think he would advance if she wasn't part of his life. Go even further because she runs the business and navigates this kind of his wild mind. I feel for it. I have a lot of very similar to Phil. I got creative things to do, but the business side of it, God, somebody else do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I kind of relate to it.
Yeah, what's funny about it is the whole journey of Phil, I find throughout the film, is really that thing of I want to create, I don't necessarily want to push the envelope. That's why he didn't really continue going on with Dennis Muren and the others to keep pushing what ILM was going to do. He wanted to make his own thing, and sometimes that meant even going backwards with technology.
Yes.
To make things like Dinosaur from 1985, which I remember watching as a kid. And I think his whole thing was he wanted to create, he wanted to test himself, but he wanted to do it by his limits. And the last thing he wanted was to play the game, but he understood that I have to play the game. And I think that's what's so interesting about him as a character. Is he didn't want to be the famous guy, and that's why so often throughout the film it's other people talking for him.
Right, and I think it's very interesting to talk about other aspects of filmmaking. He talked about the inspiration was King Kong, and he didn't know how the hell they do that.
Yeah.
And God, it's amazing how many that movie spawns so many other filmmakers to get into the business.
Yeah, it's the same thing you see nowadays when you see people that grew up on special features on DVDs, and they're like, well, how did they make that movie? And they can watch those things, and then it made them want to make movies.
I know my friend Josh, the inspiration for him to make movies was Dick Tracy, which doesn't get talked about, but he just thought it was so fascinating that is the start of his whole career.
I mean, it is peak Pacino. But,
right. But you understand, I'd like the whole dialogue conversation of stop motion. I don't think we're ever going to get 100% away from stop motion. I think Phil's kind of right. We're always going to need something like that.
He's right in the sense that he is correct. It doesn't mean that he is going to be listened to by the people who make the choices. And I think that's the tragedy of it, is he knows exactly what needs to be done in most of these situations. It's why Verhoeven called him back multiple times, because he said, I don't really understand how to do this stuff, but I have a vision. It's why his friend, I think Davidson, called him back in for things like RoboCop. He said the first thing I did when I wanted to make RoboCop was I wanted to work with Phil again. And it's like, you bring in someone who knows how to do it, and you let them test themselves with it. But unfortunately, I don't know that the world has space in Hollywood for it.
Like, I think the usage of stop motion, especially like Phil's, kind of wither away, but I don't think it will ever be gone. I think it will come back in some other nature, and people are like, oh, that's how you do it? Also, the notion that you have to show the feet moving.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I can remember, Spielberg talking about when you do CGI for special graphics for Jurassic Park, like, to be convincing of this, you're going to have a move. We can't show the feet. And he's like, the opposite of what we've been doing the whole time? Are you kidding me? I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite part of the film, is seeing how much he's enticed by the test, and how kind of finds himself in these peculiar situations, like when he had to basically create and play Max Rebo, the new guy in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I also really liked the story about how Verhoeven wasn't really attached to Starship Troopers yet, but they kind of knew this project would come eventually, and so they just started designing the bugs before there was even really a movie in progress. So they came up with like a tank bug and a marine bug and like all these different versions of things, so that when eventually this project came together, if it ever did, but they never knew it would.
He was ready, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful selection. Thanks, Tyler. It's nice to talk about other films other than just full features. Nice to talk about documentaries too.
Yeah. What was your favorite project mentioned in the film that Phil worked on?
It's the RoboCop thing. Because
Okay,
I know it's funny that he's actually the reason why it's funny about the stairs is because of him. I never learned about that, but yeah, it had to be silly, almost satirical of the demonstration with the businessmen.
Yeah.
And that's Phil all the way. And I can see Paul Verhoeven like, yeah, I love that. Just do it.
I remember that being a thing, like when I was reading about RoboCop, was that it was really hard to figure out how do we make him go down the stairs and fall? Like, how do we make that real? And I agree. I think that was my favorite part of the movie, because I love RoboCop too. But also, the really funny part was the guy that helped design the Ed 209 got pissed off that they made a model kit of it so quickly, and so he made this ridiculous guy for RoboCop 2, and then they eventually got a model kit for that one too. So I think those parts of the story were the best ones.
It's like the Doctor Who joke. How do you stop Daleks? Well, you just put stairs, and then they can't go anywhere, right?
Yeah. And that shot of the two legs dancing is just fantastic.
And he treats like a turtle on his back, like, no, how dare you? I'm a menace. And it kind of lightens up the whole mood, and I thought that was really fascinating. So.
Yep. Unless you were me watching RoboCop, because that sound stayed with me of the thing screeching, and I was terrified of it. So,
thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
You can find my reviews, St. Paul Filmcast reviews, on the link down below. And, of course, you can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, where I interview independent filmmakers from the Twin Cities area, anywhere you find podcasts.
Awesome. Yeah, and make sure to comment below your favorite Phil Tippett project mentioned in the documentary. Maybe we'll cover it if we haven't done it before. You can check out my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
Thanks for watching.